Unfortunately, in life, things happen that we have no control over, which is why My Bump to Baby works with one financial advisor and one family law solicitor in each town throughout the UK. If you have not protected your family in case the worst should happen, please think about it. So many families are left homeless when a loved one passes away and the spouse left behind cannot afford the mortgage or the bills. We insure our mobile phone. We insure our household appliances. We insure our pets. Why don't we insure ourselves? Please, today, go to www.mybumptobaby.com/family protection legal and find your nearest financial advisor or family protection specialist. It is so important that you are covered should the worst happen. Are you looking for groups and classes for your little one? Perhaps you're looking for pregnancy classes for yourself. My Bump to Baby is the UK's leading pregnancy to preschool directory. To find your nearest pregnancy to preschool group, class, lesson or service, head over to www.mybumptobaby.com. You can also read our reviews on the latest products, days out and services. Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of 50 Shades of Motherhood. Today I am joined by Sunday Times bestselling author Gemma Bray and also the creator of the amazing Tom, which I've probably all told you all about already. But hello Gemma, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be with you.
Oh, I'm really excited to have you here. Really looking forward to having a chat with you about how you are where you are now, because you've got an amazing community of parents and not just parents, people that follow your methods. And you've done all this after becoming a mum, and it was all through, your anxiety and struggles like that. So, were you planning on your first child, or was it?
Yeah, we were. I mean, so. I was quite young. I was, when I had Thomas, I was 23, 24. And I felt like that for me was the right time to have my first baby. Growing up, like in the later, teenage years, I was like, I can't wait to be a mom. And so I got married really young, actually. I got married at 21 years old. That marriage didn't last.
Oh, no.
I got married far too young. But yeah, so I had Thomas when I was in my early 20s. And I remember going to the NCT group, and most of the mums were in their mid 30s. So I felt really, really young. But we had planned him. I didn't have any problems falling pregnant. I mean, that's something that I have been blessed with. Like all three of my pregnancies have been healthy. I got pregnant really quickly, all three times. So yeah, he was planned, I think. But I think because I'd got pregnant so easily, and because I'd had a healthy pregnancy, I mean, I did have awful morning sickness, but it wasn't bad enough to be hospitalized or anything like that. But I remember thinking, what the hell is this? Because morning sickness, I think, is one of those things where no one really tells you how bad it is. And in the films and on the telly, you'll see this woman, she's a little bit flushed. And her cheeks are quite rosy, and she just comes out of the loo, just having dabbing her face because she's just been a bit sick.
It's always the day after they've had sex as well. It's the next day she's already getting sick, and that's it.
So that sort of floored me. But other than that, really, really healthy pregnancies. And because I kind of sailed through them, I think it was more of a shock when I had Thomas. And I remember, I think it's perfectly summed up by the moment that I looked in the mirror after I had Thomas, and my tummy still looked pregnant. And I noticed stretch marks that I hadn't been able to see because they were underneath the bump. And now I remember looking down and going, oh my God, what's happened to me? And it was the day after I'd given birth to him, I'd hobbling to the toilet because I had stitches, and I was just okay, this is different. And it really hit me, and everything was just out of control. This will not come as a shock to anyone who follows me on social media. I like to know what I'm doing. I like control. So having a newborn baby, that control goes completely out of the window, doesn't it?
It definitely does, yes.
And I remember when he was a few weeks old, just thinking there has to be some sort of pattern here. I mean, I refuse to believe there isn't. I've just not noticed it. I'm just so sleep deprived, I've not noticed it. So I had an Excel spreadsheet and I color coded it, and I was right, sleeping, okay, eating, awake periods. And I was and I'll look at this after a week, and I was convinced that I'd see some sort of correlation in the colours, and it just looked like a patchwork quilt. There was just colours everywhere.
That's amazing that you got the spreadsheet. I love that idea. Gemma, were you really organised before Thomas then? Were you always super organised, or? No,
well, what happened was my mum thinks it's hilarious that I do what I do, and I've written books about what I've written about, because she will tell anyone who listens how I was as a teenager. She used to find week-old packed lunches underneath my bed. I always had holes in my tights. My hair was always just slight, never quite got to how I wanted it to be style-wise. No. So the short answer to that is no. And it was only after I had kids that I realised that things run an awful lot smoother when you kind of have a plan. But what happened at the beginning was when I first became a mum, I went too much the other way. So I realised that my life was out of control because a newborn had just been put into it, and I had no control over when he slept, etc. And I really tried to double down on that. And I thought the only thing that I could control would be how the house looked. And I couldn't control my postnatal body. It didn't look the same, but I could control my house. And if everyone saw that I had a gleaming, immaculate house, this is how I rationalized it in my head, everybody would then assume that I was completely coping with it and just bossing being a new mom, when the reality was it was just a massive smoke screen, almost like a defense mechanism to stop anyone coming in too close and checking if I was actually okay.
Do you know, it's so funny that when you went back and said, I am before I was the messiest person ever. And I've had bad anxiety since losing, during pregnancy, my little twins during pregnancy. And since then, my mental health has been panic attacks, etc. But the way I've coped is cleaning. And before I found out about you, actually, I was literally cleaning
all the time because it was the only thing that kind of kept my mind active. I couldn't just sit and think, because then the intrusive thoughts come in. Oh, you're not a good mum. You're not this. You're not that. And so that's what I did. And we'll go on to that shortly. But no, that does make sense.
I think it's I think it's really common, actually, and it is. I think a lot of people, we all have different ways of coping and almost hiding from dealing with the root problem, and just sort of distracting ourselves, whether that's over cleaning or over exercising or, you know, whatever. It's almost like I always try and think of it as like a getaway car, really, just to distract you from the actual problem. And it's really, you know, it's human nature, because who wants to sit with those uncomfortable feelings? Because it's not nice.
No, it's not. It's not. So yeah, that really does make sense. So it's like having something that's yours and that you can control, and you know, and it almost is like that shiny thing where people just see it and think, oh, look at Gemma, she's got it together. You know, her house is pristine. So were you cleaning all the time then, originally?
Yeah, so it got to the point. So before I had kids, I would just do like a big clean, like once a while, because, you know, when you've got two adults that go to work all the time, there's not really a lot to clean, is there, really? No. But then when Tom was really little, I'd get up, I'd get dressed, and I would just start cleaning. And I fixated on certain things. So for me, it was always the hoovering, because we had a dog. So it was hoovering, it was the kitchen worktops, and it was just all certain and little shiny taps. I was obsessed with cushions. I look back now and I'm like, why did I fixate? I was always in like I was always looking for cushions. I was always trying to find the perfect cushion. Yeah, it's just weird. Anyway, and it got to the point where I stopped going to see my friends, because I was like, no, I've got to do the cleaning, and I know that if I go out, I'll feel guilty that I've left the dishes or something like that. And it got to the point where I was like cutting bread over the kitchen sink to not make any crumbs on the counter. And it was actually the turning point, actually, for me was, I mean, my friends and family would laugh, like, oh God, you're obsessed. And I'd be like, no. You know, it's just like when someone says, oh, you know, you look a bit thin or something like that. If you're on a diet, part of you might think, oh, great. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like a badge of honor kind of thing. It's just, your brain works like that. But I remember that the turning point was when the health visitor came, and I'd read on an internet forum, which you should never do.
No.
That health visitors always come and check your loo. And they always ask to use the toilet because they can judge. It's great. We're looking back now, I'm just like, what? They judge your house and your ability based on how clean your loo is. I now know that is so untrue, because so many health visitors have said, can we just please debunk this myth?
Oh my goodness.
So I fixated on this. I said, right, okay, I've got to clean the loo. And I was on my hands and knees and scrubbing the toilet floor before she came. And she never used the loo. She never has to use the loo. And I'm going, sometimes before you go.
Another water.
She was obviously really good at her job. And she'd ask me, you know, when they discharge you and they ask you to fill out those forms, at that point, how many times did you cry? Then do you often, and I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
There you go, like that. And she was just like, is this true? Like that. And yeah.
Did you find that you were getting, this is where I was getting frustrated with people in the house making mess. And I've got a little boy and he does make a mess, but sometimes it would really get to me. I'd be like, I've just tidied that. And it's a bit, a bit snappy.
Yes, absolutely. 100% that. And it was getting in the way of living life, basically. So I was stopping seeing my friends because I was prioritizing the housework, and it was just all wrong. And that was the real turning point when she sort of realized that I wasn't as fine as I was portraying to everybody else. And she just said, look, you know, and this will always stick with me, and I often, you know, quote her. She said, as long as you and your baby are happy and healthy and cared for, everything else is just sprinkles on your cupcake. I was just like, oh, so it's okay, you know, if I walk around Tesco's and I've got baby sick down my back, that's fine. That's normal, actually. That's completely normal. And it's completely normal to still be in your dressing gown at 11 a.m. with a newborn because you've been up all night. And not only is that normal, it's probably also encouraged because it means that you're giving yourself a bit of a break. And that was really the turning point. And at that point, I realised that if I didn't do something about it, it was getting to the point where I wouldn't have been able to reverse it. And yeah, it was becoming so prevalent in my life and such a big part of my life. Like, I'd wake up in the morning, the first thing I'd think about is, what am I going to clean? You know, you know what I mean? And
you get in a cycle though, Gemma, don't you? You could sometimes get in a bit of a cycle where you become, I mean, with my, after my anxiety was all health related, and because I can't control that, it's like you can do what you can control, but the health anxiety was the same. It's a bit like OCD, isn't it? Where you feed it, you keep feeding this thing, and it just gets a bit out of control, doesn't it? And you'll get more and more and more obsessed with it.
Yeah, but I think the thing with anxiety is it's a funny thing because it can attach to anything. And sometimes you're just like, whoa, well, hold on a second. I wasn't anxious about this 3 or 4 years ago. Why am I anxious about it now? And it almost like it finds a weak spot and attaches itself to it. And all of a sudden your anxiety is manifesting itself in a different way. I mean, I used to suffer horrendously with panic attacks. And, you know, they're very few and far between now. But like, if you'd have told me when I was having really bad anxiety and panic attacks that I would go on live telly, I'd be like, no, I won't, because I was like, I'd be convinced I was going to faint on live telly or something. But it's just I find that as I've, you know, gone through life, my anxiety never has actually gone away. It just kind of meanders and attaches itself to different things, which is just great.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever get rid of it. I know. Well, that's it. No. And you know, when I was a kid, my mum, I think looking back, I've always had it. I don't know about you, but my mum used to be very much like, I'd get a bit down. She'd be like, right, early night, get TV on. And, you know, and I never really knew what mental health was. Obviously, it's really important to share about it as well, but sometimes when you're younger you don't really know, so then you don't think about it too much. But as you start to get older, then once you realize what it is, I think you think about it more and you worry about it more, don't you?
Yeah, and I think it becomes more of a thing, and like you say, you feed it, and then almost you become anxious of the anxiety itself. So I know that when I was having really bad panic attacks, I was fearing fear itself, if that makes sense. Like, I was scared of becoming scared. And it was just like, what is this? And I think I've always been predisposed to it. Like when I was a really young kid at school, I used to hate being late. Like, so much so that we'd have to arrive everywhere like half an hour before, because I would get really anxious about, you know, being late for school.
Oh, that is so lovely. I was one of the late ones that'd be like, oh, sorry.
I was such a swot at school. I can't be late.
Oh, but it is. It follows you through life, doesn't it? So what was the turning point then for you when you just thought, I can't do this anymore?
So I sat down in my kitchen, and I was like, what do I want? What do I want out of life, basically? How do I want to be a mom? How do I want to approach motherhood? And I was like, well, all through my motherhood, like pregnancy, I'd been bombarded with images of women with cherub-faced kids, you know, feeding them to like carrot puree in their white jeans, you know, and that's what I thought it was going to be like. And it obviously isn't anything like that. I mean, for some people it is, but for me it wasn't. So the turning point was sitting down at that kitchen table and working out that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life cleaning. I wanted to go and do something. I wanted to go and enjoy being a mom and going to the park and making sandwiches and not caring about, making a mess while I'm preparing a picnic. So I sat down, I had this note paper, and I was just like, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compartmentalize the cleaning to 30 minutes a day. So what you have to understand is my house was like so clean at this point that I was starting from an already clean house. I was like, to maintain this, I probably only need to do 30 minutes, and I'm going to try and not do any cleaning at the weekend. And I allotted each day of the week to a different room, essentially, that I was going to clean in. And I stuck it on my fridge, and my best friend's husband came round. They came round one day, and he sort of looked in the fridge and went, what day is it today? And it was a Thursday, and he's like, oh, it's kitchen day, like that. And they were all taking the mickey, but I was just like, no, because it was working. It was really, really working. And it just got to the point where I just knew it off by heart, and it just became my routine, like eating breakfast or having a shower. It was just, right, I've got to do 30 minutes. It's in the living room today, so that's what I'm doing, and then I'm going to just stop and go and do something else. And it was difficult at first, really stopping after 30 minutes, and it was difficult when, after you'd done it, someone would inevitably make a mess. Like, you hear the noise of like the Lego bricks or the wooden blocks being tipped out, and it's just like, ugh. And that is still something I'm always working on that. Always working on that, especially now that my kids are older. Like, my eldest he's coming up to 15, and walking into his bedroom sometimes is just like, I have to take a deep breath before I go in, because I know that it's not going to, I know it's just going to be carnage. But yeah, and it just stayed with me, and it always helped. So, and yeah, it worked. So I've stuck with it.
I think that's a massive thing, isn't it? I think it's Instagram and Facebook is great, but sometimes you're scrolling through and there's just absolutely picture perfect houses, everything, and it's just like, oh my God, if she can do it and she's got a newborn baby and I've got a 5-year-old, I can't do it. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And it's like you're constantly beating yourself up, but you're looking at lots of different people doing amazing things, and you're thinking that you need to be excellent at this, excellent at that, excellent at that. And I think it's actually just understanding, like, you can't be everywhere at once, and you can't be perfect either. And I think that's really hard.
Yeah, it is. And I think what's also really important to remember about, I think especially Instagram, is a lot of Instagrammers who, I'm not talking about like your mates who are on Instagram or whatever, the people that are earning a living from social media. It is their job. It is their job to, and they become almost like a brand. If that is their brand, to show like motherhood, or if it's a mummy blogger or something like that, and maybe they're working with supermarkets or other companies. It is their job to portray their lifestyle in a way that makes the people who are consuming their content want to buy the product they're advertising. And it is their job. If someone was advertising, I don't know, I'll just pick something at random. If someone was advertising a vase, right, and they were getting paid by vases.com, and their living room was a mess, and there was a burping cloth with baby sick down it next to the vase, it's not aesthetically pleasing, and people were like, whatever.
Yeah.
But, if it was a good shot and it was staged just like in any magazine or any advert on the telly, and I think it's so easy to get sucked in to this, imagery, like I was when social media didn't exist when I was pregnant, thank God. But because it would just made everything 1,000 times worse. But it's so easy to get sucked into this. Well, like you said, if they're doing it, why can't I? And because you can't, because it's not real life. And like you said, you might be looking at someone who's got an immaculate house in one picture. The next picture down the feed, it's some fitness influencer who, is drinking green tea after doing hot yoga in the morning. They have two completely different lives, but all of a sudden your brain has gone, not only do I need to have a perfect house, I also need to have a perfect body and be up at 5 a.m. and doing hot yoga. Yeah. And this is all too much to cope with. It's really difficult.
It is. And it is, I mean, social media is great in some ways. I mean, obviously, you know, it's inspiring, isn't it? Looking at people, and there's so many good things to it. But I do think, yeah, you want a bit of everything, don't you? I mean, I've actually got Michelle Keegan saved on my screensaver at the moment, because to stop me eating after lockdown much. So the other day, it was so embarrassing. I actually went to the car park, went to pay. And this man before me, he was trying to pay and his card didn't work. And I said, I'll pay that for you, because I'm trying to do one nice thing a day at the moment. We'll try. Anyway, I went, put my phone there, and he was like, oh. I said, oh, it's Michelle Keegan. I said, oh, no, I'm not. I'm just so hard to explain. But anyway, so for good things, you know, it can work in a good way, looking at all these amazing people. But also, I think, you know, when you're not feeling 100% on everything. I mean, it's this morning, I woke up at 6. And I was like, right, I need to clean, but then I also need to exercise. And then I also need to get ready for George for school. And you just don't know which direction to go in sometimes.
No, and it's your brain just suddenly becomes so overwhelmed. Then it almost, and I actually did an Instagram post about this yesterday, because I, very oddly, like, I never expected this to happen. So obviously I started Tom because I was over cleaning. But over this last period of lockdown, my mental health has just done something that it's never done before. And it's just like my brain has gone into this fog that I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, where's the motivation gone? My motivation has just left. So I'm now using Tom to motivate me to clean.
Wow.
And it's just really weird, and I kind of feel like I'm seeing it from the other side, because there's two main groups of people who use Tom. So there's people that overclean and that are using it to curb their overcleaning, and then there's the people who just don't know where to start. So like, maybe their house has just been neglected, maybe they've been ill, or they've been a carer, and they've just the housework has just been so low down on their priorities that they haven't even registered it. And yeah, and now I'm just like, okay, this is brand new. This is a brand new situation, and thank God, it's still working, but from the other side.
That's amazing. Well, at least you know it works. You know, that's great. But so when you sat down and you created this amazing app, tell me, like, what did you know what it was going to turn into?
Oh God, the app. Oh God.
Oh.
It's like the most stressful thing in the world. Mike and I, my husband, you know, we love each other dearly. We are soulmates. The first app that we released, we almost got divorced. Like,
oh, really?
So stressful, because I said to him, let's build an app like that. Yeah. And I literally am not techie in any way. I'm like, which plug does this go in? That is, you know, and he is very, you know, he knows what he's doing, and he was like, I'll build it for you, darling. I was like, oh, thanks. So we had no team behind us, and we launched that a couple of years ago, and I was so naive. I had no idea that so many lovely people would download it, and it just crashed, and it took us about 4 months to fix it. So I have a love-hate relationship with that app.
Oh, I do love it, actually. That's what I first listened to you, but it was a recommendation from one of our area managers, actually, and she said, you need to get this app. And she said, first of all, listen to the book. And I listened to your audio book, and it was amazing, really inspiring. And it did make me chuckle as well. But then I got the app, and gosh, I absolutely loved it. It's just given me a new lease of life, really. But, you know, it's I used to be a person that used to avoid housework, and now, like, you know, then I got obsessed with it, because I get obsessed with things. You know, once I'm deciding I'm doing something, it's like the other month I was like, right, I'm going to start reading. Instead of reading, I ordered 15 books. You know, it never happened. They came, they're still in the packaging. It just, you know, I get a bit obsessed. So when I got your app, oh my goodness, I was like in my element, but it meant that I could actually have a bit of a break and time away, guilt-free time away from cleaning as well. Which is important. So, you know, when you created it, Gemma, and you actually, did you just sit down at the table and draw up this plan then?
Yeah, I did. It was on a scrap. It was on like just a scrap bit of paper, and I really wish, you know, in hindsight, I really wish I'd kept it. I'd have probably framed it or something.
Yeah.
And but obviously it's long gone now. But I never ever expected it to be what it is. I always expected it to be something. It was so private. You know, people used to take the mickey, you know, of me, like friends and family, because they knew it was like kitchen day or whatever. But I never really spoke about it to anybody. And it was actually Thomas. It's very confusing because Thomas, my son, was the newborn that kicked it all off.
Yeah.
And when I named it the Organised Mum method, it was so tongue-in-cheek because it was something that I was aspiring to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I never thought I would. And then it was, the acronym was Tom, and it was sort of like, it just seemed too good an opportunity to not take up. But he dared me to talk about it on Instagram, and it was one New Year's Eve. We're doing our New Year's resolutions, and he said, "I dare you to talk about your cleaning online."
Oh my God.
But because I'm quite a competitive person, and because my eldest had dared me to do it, I was like, well, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to be an example, and I'm going to set an example for my child. And I fully anticipated that it would just fizzle out like after about 10 weeks, and I could quietly just shut the account down and no one would ever talk about it again. And it was just that, do you remember that time when Mum tried to be an Instagrammer? Do you know what I mean? But it took off, and it was really weird. And I think at the beginning, some people, I don't get it so much now, but some people struggled with the name and the concept. And I think some people thought it was quite a sexist concept, and it was like dragging women back to the 1950s. Because, I mean, there are obviously, cleaning's a big thing now on Instagram, but when I started, it really wasn't. Like it was just not what it is now in any way. And no one really spoke about it. And I think that was the thing. This cleaning was one of those things that you always had to do unless you could afford to pay someone to do it for you. But no one really spoke about it anymore. And I found that with my generation, I went to an all-girls school, and we were, you know, we had it really rammed into us that we could be anything that we could wanted to be. We could be lawyers, doctors, you know, there'd been this, you know, feminist revolution, and, you know, we'd got the vote, and it was up to us to go out and be pioneers and And there was so much focus on that we just like learned how to sew a cushion in design and technology, which, you know, I've never sewn a cushion since. And we learned how to make a Cornish pasty. I remember that.
Yeah,
it was nice. Yeah. It was really nice. Yeah. That was a good day at school. Yeah. But no one really taught me how to, you know, battle lime scale or how to do your laundry in an efficient way, because it wasn't forward thinking enough.
Yeah,
for the girls of the 90s.
Yeah,
you know?
it's almost gone the other way, where you're not allowed to discuss those things. Some people don't like you discussing, like women discussing cleaning, which almost then makes it'll just keep doing a U-turn sometimes, doesn't it?
I know,
and you're not allowed to. And it's like, well, actually, some mums. A lot of mums I know, actually, through circles of friends, we are the cleaners in our house. There's some dads I know that do it, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's
facts. You can't escape facts. And the facts are, I mean, listen, I am a proper feminist. I am raising 3 boys. My husband does his fair share. We all share the cleaning. In some households, that's not what happens, and that might be by choice, you know, and it's not it's not us to judge. But 98, and this is not a made up statistic, 98% of the women, of the people in my Facebook group are female. Now, some people say, well, that's because you're a female and they, you know, and it's called the Organised Mum. So like, the chances are you are going to attract more females. But I would absolutely love it if it was a 50-50 split. But you know, what happens is, and this is something that I've seen time and time again, like when I was an antenatal teacher, I used to then do postnatal classes as well. And what happens is, in many cases, not all, there's obviously I want to caveat that. People will take maternity leave. So women will take maternity leave because that is, in many cases, it's the majority of the cases, the woman.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take maternity leave. And all of a sudden, while she's on maternity leave, all of the other jobs that go along with running a house suddenly get lumped in to her remit, her sphere, whether or not that's because she can't stand sitting and feeding the kid, looking at the laundry, so it's just easier to go and fold it.
Yeah.
And then it's such a slow creep that her partner may be just going out doing a traditional job, working. If she wants to go back to work, there then comes a really awkward conversation, because for the last however many months to a year, the other person who's been still going out to work and not taken leave has not had to deal with the house as much. And then it's like, can we redress the balance? And it's really awkward.
And it can cause arguments. It can definitely.
It really does. We only have to be so careful in the Facebook group because it's the internet.
Yeah, and it scares me.
Anyone wades in, but we have to be careful, because you can have a woman that's really at a wit's end because she feels really put upon that she does everything in the house. And it's really difficult to try and moderate that in a way that she feels heard and she gets the advice that she needs, without it turning into just another thread on the internet where people are just bashing men for being lazy. Because that is just such a generalization. My husband is like the opposite. He does so much to help in the house, but everyone's situation is different, and it does cause so many arguments.
Exactly, it really does. And that's it. And I think sometimes even the night feeding, we had a bit of a thing around that, because one of my friends, her husband would do it like during the night because he was up more and he worked for himself. But then I was like, I admit, said to my husband, I was like, well, he does the night feeds. Why can't you do the night feeds? So in the end, we found a compromise where he did it on a Tuesday and a Friday, which actually worked really well, because it meant I had a full night's sleep to look forward to, 2 points in the week. But everyone is so different, and everyone's got different things that they can cope with and things that they want to do. So no, I totally get that. So,
and also everyone's got different levels of cleanliness as well. And it's very unusual to end up with someone who has exactly the same standards. The majority of the cases, someone is either a little bit more tidy than the other person, and it's the person that's a little bit more tidy that usually breaks first and it's like, oh right, I'm going to go and tidy up because I can't cope anymore. And the other person's like, what? It's fine. And they genuinely don't see it because it's not reached their threshold yet.
No, I know, that's it. And I imagine most of the arguments around the house are about cleaning.
Yeah.
But Gemma, can you tell us a bit about, obviously without sharing too much, because I want people to check out your amazing method, etc. But can you tell us a little bit about how it works then, the structure of it?
Yeah. So it's first things is we try as much as possible to keep weekends completely free. So my little phrase that we stick by is there's more to life than housework. So weekends are meant to be kept for fun stuff with the family or hobbies and that sort of thing. So that means over the week you have a set day which is assigned to each weekly day. So Mondays are living rooms, Tuesday is bedrooms, Wednesday is hallway, Thursday is kitchen, and then Fridays we have a deep clean in a different area. So it works on an 8-week rolling schedule. So every Friday for 8 weeks, you'll go and deep clean the living room, or you'll go and deep clean the bathrooms. So what that does is that tackles what I used to be guilty of when I was over cleaning, of just becoming fixated on the same thing, like just hoovering all the time or polishing the taps in the bathroom all the time. Because when you go that one level deeper on a Friday, we call it the Friday focus, you are not just doing surface cleaning, you're like moving the sofa, or you're doing a little bit of decluttering. So over each 8-week rolling cycle, your house just becomes progressively cleaner. And what most people find is that when they start the first couple of weeks, they're like, I could never do this. I could never clean my kitchen in 30 minutes. This is just too much. So we always say, just look at the list of jobs as like a pick and mix. Like, it's just a default suggestion, because obviously I don't know what these people's houses like. I don't know the lay of the land in their house. Just do the most urgent ones. And over time, it will just get quicker and quicker and quicker. And it's funny because people will message me and say, when I first started, I used to look at this list and laugh. And like now I'm 4 or 5 weeks in and I've been consistent with it. And it's just taken me 21 minutes to clean the kitchen. And I never thought I would get to this. So the whole premise is it's little and often, every day, but not weekends. And over the course of the 8-week rolling cycle, you just chip away, and it just becomes cleaner and cleaner.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I've used that. I've obviously told you all that, but I found it really, really useful. A good way to, like you said, just stay on top of things. So actually, you get that surprise visitor, obviously not at the moment, but you get that surprise visitor. And it's not like, because I used to, the doorbell would ring and I'd have literally Febreze, everything, like, or you'd get someone saying, right, I'm just round the corner from yours. And you're like, oh, shit.
Oh, my, what do I do first? Get dressed? What do I do? Yeah.
Oh, and that is it. So this has been a lot better, because now, well, not now, hopefully soon, when people do actually turn up, or, I'm not good with people that just turn up at the house. So I don't know about you. I honestly, it freaks me out.
I can't cope.
I pretend not to be in sometimes, actually, to be honest with you. I kind of have a look through the spy hole, but it just depends who it is. But if I'm not feeling it, it's not getting answered. But with that, it's just a case of kind of not feeling. I mean, I don't know. Before, what would happen to me is I'd have these random big cleaning sprees. No one would ever come round. And then as soon as that house is horrendous, it'd be like, I just think, oh,
Sod's
for God's sake.
That's Sod's law.
It is. So it's a good way, this, of just basically staying on top of everything, like you said, for 30 minutes a day. And you have your playlists and stuff like that, don't you, where you can kind of have a 30-minute playlist.
Yeah. So so music is all, this is not like unique to me, but music has always been really important to me. And I always find that if I'm kind of feeling a little bit low or not really feeling it, the right playlist can turn my whole day around. Like if I'm in like really bad traffic and the right song comes on, I'm like, oh, this is absolutely fine. This is fine. So those playlists, again, they were like something that it's funny actually, because I create those playlists every week. I like sit down on a Friday. It's like one of my favorite jobs to do in the week. I'll sit down and I'll go through my playlist. I'll create 5 for the next following week. And I never really think about anyone listening to them, because I just choose the songs I like. Yeah. I am of a certain vintage. So like I'm 40. So like it's not, I couldn't tell you who is in the charts these days. So it's just like old school like stuff. Anyway, and a couple of weeks ago, Spotify, because I do them on Spotify, launched a brand new, like they had an update on their app, and it broke the link from my app to their app. And we suddenly realized how many thousands of people were listening to it, because we suddenly got so many help desk tickets on the customer service help desk. We were like, oh my God, people actually listen.
I bet you forget.
Yes, Gemma, people listen. It's like when you do podcasts or something, it's like you're talking and you sort of get caught up in it and you don't think that someone's actually going to
you don't, do you? You just kind of get on with it. And then sometimes, like the other week I was outside George's school, a lady was like, hiya, you're right, I love that podcast. I was like, huh? Yeah. Who are you? Like, you just don't know. You forget, don't you? Because the internet is amazing, isn't it? And you forget.
That's the thing. Like, it always makes me jump, because I think I was in Tesco's last summer when we were allowed out. We'd been to Thorpe Park, and I was so sweaty. And I forget that I do things on like Instagram and YouTube and people watch it. And this lady came up to me, and it wasn't in our local shop, it was another one. And she came up to me and she was like, hello. And I just went, hello. I was like, do I know this lady? And then she explained, and I was like, oh, I'm really sweaty. I'm so sorry. And I was like, Thomas was like, why did you say that? I was like, I don't know, I panicked.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah. You have to say something, though. That's why with this podcast, I mean, sometimes I have to rein myself in because I just talk too much. But it's always, oh, I don't know, when people kind of catch you off guard, I always say something stupid or a spit or something like that. You know, when I'm talking, I'm just like, oh, yeah. Bleh. And then a dribble or something. And I think, why did I even speak? What was the point? So, yeah, totally get that. So, Gemma, you are also bringing out your very own journal, aren't you? So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. Okay. So for years, Team Tom, who is what we call people that follow the Organised Mum method, have been saying, bring out a journal, bring out a journal, bring out. And I was like, no. And in the end, they broke me. And like the publisher said, shall we do it? I think people want one. I was like, oh, okay. They twisted my arm. But it was really important to me that I just didn't go into a room and created the sort of journal that I would use. I needed it. It's a real collaborative effort. So I went onto the Facebook group. And I was like, if we were going to produce a journal, what would you want in it? And like, so everyone just waded in and come up with their suggestions. And it's fantastic actually, because it means that we know that what we're putting in, people are actually want, but B will actually make it useful. Because I don't know about you, but there was, in the past, I will buy like a blank notebook and I'm like, now this is the start of something amazing. It's a whole blank canvas and like I fill out 2 pages and I'm like, however.
I've got loads in the drawer, but my problem is the messy handwriting. If I've crossed things out, I don't want to use it anymore and it's gone. So I've got loads.
I like it when it looks used, but yeah, half-used notebooks. So it's really important to me that this journal actually gets used. So yeah, it's coming out in September. We're sort of still putting the finishing touches to it, and I'm writing little bits for little parts in it still.
Is it directly for cleaning, or a bit of everything?
So it's a bit of everything. So it sort of combines the organised time technique with the Organised Mum method, and it's very interactive, so people can make it their own. I don't want to say too much because I'm trying to twist their arm on something that will make it absolutely phenomenal. But they're resisting me at the moment. Yeah. But I'm like, come on, you know that this will just push it into amazing. And like they're like, oh, but that's going to cost too much money. It's interactive, and it will be adaptable to. So it's not just cleaning, and we've put a lot of thought into it, like things like columns. Which way should the columns run, and like what makes it more usable? And wow. I know things about journals now that you shouldn't ever have to know.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, because of course, when there'll be a lot of mums listening to this that maybe just had a baby, or they're thinking, right, I don't want to go back to work, but I want to create something. And it's interesting to know, like, market research is where it's at. It's about finding out what people actually want. And it's great you use that community like that. It's a great group. Everyone's in there. It's quite funny sometimes reading the posts in there.
Yeah, it's something that it's important to me, that group, because the internet, like we said, is amazing, but at the same time it's a double-edged sword. Like there's wallies everywhere you go in life, which means there will be wallies on the internet. But I look at that group, and like all my social media, like my front room, really, someone's come in and had a chat. So it's really important that we try and keep that as nice as possible. It's impossible to keep all the wallies out 365 days of the year, but we do try our best. And one thing that I am actually really quite proud of is that when the app really took off, I was running the help desk on my own, and I was just like, I can't do this, I can't handle this. So I have now employed 3 mums who work from home. They set their own hours basically, and it just feels lovely to be able to employ mums on their own terms, really. Because when I first became a mum, like I'm sure all parents who are trying to fit work around a baby, how many of us have like Googled part-time work from home? Yeah. What can I do from home? Like,
anything from home.
Yeah. And that's what got me into writing, because when I had an English degree, I've always loved writing, but when I became a single mom, I was like, I need to earn money. I can't go out to work because the kids are really young still. I couldn't afford childcare. So I needed something that I could do in the evenings. And I just signed up to like a load of freelance writing sites. And I used to, produce 300 articles on airport car parking.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this is so dull. But, it paid the bills.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. That's it. And I think sometimes it's just, I mean, yours, it's inspiring because your journey, similar to mine, actually, my bump to baby was born from me getting postnatal depression after having my little one. And it's funny because when you're at that all-time low, sometimes that is when something amazing is created as well. And I think
it's born out of necessity. I think, you needed it at that time. So you're fulfilling a need that other people will have. And I think that's what
I think you're right there. It is, because a lot of mums end up kind of working for themselves, don't they, and producing these amazing like businesses and these amazing products, and it's because they've needed it. So you absolutely, absolutely. So Gemma, any top tips to leave us with?
Yes. So the first one is, I'll give you a couple. So the first one is more of like a philosophy, and this is something that it took me ages to wrap my head around, and is something that I still have to remind myself of daily, is that there's a massive difference between a home that's just a little bit messy because people live there and it's lived in, and a home that is genuinely filthy dirty. Your kid might be playing. You clean the house, it's living room day, it's Monday, you've done your 30 minutes in the living room, and then in the afternoon, you look into the living room, there's loads of toys. And it's just surface mess. And it's because your family are living in that house. So that's, for me, the first thing is to really remember and recognize that if you've done 30 minutes cleaning, if you've done your cleaning for your day, you have done enough, and everything else is just life mess that can be, reasoned away like that. And the practical tip that I would say is, if you are in a state with your house and you feel like you don't know where to start, it's full of clutter, what always seems to work for people is choosing the 2 rooms of the house where you can make the biggest difference the quickest. So for me, that is like maybe the kitchen or the living room. So the rooms that you are going to see all of the time, because once you start to make a little bit of progress, it will turn something on in your brain. Even if it's the tiniest amount of progress, you will feel like you've achieved something, and that is highly likely to spur you on and do something else. So if I had to walk into a house and I was helping someone do like a massive declutter, I'd be like, right, which rooms we're going to choose? One room, and we're going to choose the room where we can make the biggest difference the quickest, not the spare room, not the loft, the room where you will walk in and go, wow, okay, this looks different. And just tackle things a little bit at a time. Even if you've only got 10 minutes, just say, right, I'm going to do that bookcase, and just do the bookcase. Don't pull the whole room apart. Just stick to certain zones of the room, because otherwise you'll end up in that awful situation where you've literally pulled everything out and everything is everywhere, and you're just like, what have I done? What have I done? I just close the door and leave.
Yeah, sleep in the other room. I've done that in my bedroom before. I emptied all the wardrobe out, and then I thought, oh, I'm not sleeping in here. I'm going to sleep in the spare bedroom, because you just run out of energy, don't you?
That's it. It's just one cupboard at a time, one bookcase, one wall at a time. That's how I'd tackle it.
I love that. No, thank you so much, Gemma. Really, really appreciate you coming on here. Can you just tell everyone where they can find you? And we'll obviously put your links in the show notes.
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's The Organised Mum. On Facebook, it's The Organised Mum. And also there's some YouTube videos, but that's not called The Organised Mum. That's called Gem Bray.
Oh, right.
Because I was just, feeling a little bit fancy.
Yeah, brilliant. No, that's perfect. I'll put those links all on there, and the link to the app. And also they can pre-order the journal now if they want.
They can pre-order it.
So I'll put the link to that on there as well. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of 50 Shades of Motherhood. 50 Shades of Motherhood is all about being free, being real, being raw, and saying what you want to say without fear of judgment. So if you have enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends. You never know who it might help. Not everyone is so open about sharing their stories, so it's really important to raise awareness around topics so that it can help other people feel less alone. And also, if you don't mind reviewing us and subscribing, that would be amazing. It means the more listeners we have, the more podcasts that I can create. So, thank you once again for listening. If you want to make any suggestions for future episodes, please pop me an email over. My email address is carla@mybumptobaby.com. And I look forward to speaking to you next time on 50 Shades of Motherhood.